Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Machicomoco State Park, Virginia's newest state park in Gloucester County. I want to welcome you today to our dedication for this site. We have a small ceremony with several speakers that will tell you a little bit more about the park and what you'll be able to see when you come. So we're very excited to share this site with you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Melissa Baker, Director of Virginia State Parks.
Hello and welcome. How wonderful it is to be speaking to all of you today on such a joyous occasion. These 645 acres are a welcome addition to the recreation opportunities for residents of Gloucester County and Virginia. Machicomoco State Park adds to our presence here in the Tidewater and Chesapeake Bay region and further strengthens Virginia State Park's ability to provide healthy, safe, and accessible recreation opportunities to all Virginians. The park also preserves the cultural and historic resources associated with this land. Over 2 miles of wooded interpretive trail provide visitors and views of the waterways indigenous peoples relied on for food, travel, and commerce. Even the plant species around us are part of the larger land management stories of the Algonquin people who lived here for hundreds of years before European arrival. Their resource management strategies laid the foundation for many of the practices we utilize today. You can learn more about these along the interpretive signage just beside me. Looking forward, Machicomoco will provide valuable educational opportunities for Virginia students both through in-classroom interpretation as well as hosting programs and trips from schools from across the state. It is our hope that what people learn at this park will spark an ember of curiosity, leading those who visit here to seek more knowledge about the history of the people who once walked these lands and a deeper understanding of their culture, which lives today through their descendants. In addition to the educational opportunities that the park offers, visitors of all abilities can enhance their physical and mental health by taking advantage of the many recreational opportunities in the park. Guests can enjoy up to 3 miles of paved trails, which will make for easy walking and biking. And the park is also perfectly situated for waterborne activities, both as a launch point and as a destination. The park features an ADA accessible car-top boat launch for guests to explore the tidal York River and the delicate marine ecosystems that the park will help protect. In addition, the floating dock provides larger motorcraft the opportunity to tie up and explore the park for the day. And after guests have enjoyed their day in the park, they can unwind with friends and family around the campfire in our campground. Machicomoco invites reflection, contemplation, and relaxation. Our parks have become a refuge for first-time visitors as Virginians have navigated the many challenges of the past year. And whether spending a day at the park or enjoying several days in our campground in a yurt, a tent, or their personal recreation vehicle, a visit to Machicomoco will allow visitors to step away from the stresses and concerns of daily life, stroll the grounds, enjoy a picnic, and reflect on the stories of the land, and in so doing, become part of the story of this special place. It is our hope that a visit to Machicomoco will provide people with opportunities to reflect upon the complex history of the region and to reflect upon their own role in the history of the Commonwealth. When you visit the park, walk along the timeline and note that the timeline continues for the stories that are yet to be told. And we want to thank everyone who worked so hard to make this day possible. And also to the first staff who have the responsibility to interpret, maintain, and protect this special meeting place for future generations. And so I'd like to introduce our first park manager for Machicomoco State Park, Terry Sims. Also with us on the park today are Josh Mazzatinta, who is our Chief Ranger, and Jeremy Manning, who is a trades tech and will help care for the property. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the Director of Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, Clyde Cristman.
Thank you, Dr. Baker, and welcome to your first of what's going to be many new Virginia State Park openings. Hello, and welcome to the virtual grand opening of Machicomoco State Park. You know, this is different. COVID's taught us a lot of things, Governor. Normally we do a grand opening of State Park and we want hundreds of people here. So to the hundreds of you out there online watching, welcome, and we wish you could be here in person. We hope you can come visit the park soon. As Melissa mentioned, a lot of effort, a lot of work from our state park staff has gone into making this day possible. Matter of fact, it was just a little under 2 years ago that we did the groundbreaking on a rather chilly day out here. And the opening of Virginia's 40th State Park is a momentous occasion, adding much needed recreational space, public access to water for both Virginians and our out-of-state visitors to enjoy. But this ceremony is more importantly about acknowledging untold history. 2 years ago, after the groundbreaking, Secretary Strickler tasked us with the job of coming up with an Algonquin name for the park that was easy to say, easy to spell, and meaningful. I think you'll all acknowledge that with the choice of the name Machicomoco, we hit it out of the park. Machicomoco, a special meeting place, will help to tell the stories of the Virginia Indian peoples who have been here for thousands of years. Prior to European settlement, the peoples of the Chesapeake region thrived on these lands and waters. For many of you, these are your ancestors. They built a rich society that stretched beyond modern-day jurisdictions. They called the region Ceremonial, meaning densely inhabited land. By the early 1600s, prior to the white man arriving here, it was home to approximately 15,000 peoples in this area. They lived much of the year in towns along the rivers, which often shared the names of the tribes. Machicomoco State Park will enable a very large audience to learn this history through programs and interpretive materials. And that would not be possible if this site had been developed into a residential neighborhood, as once was planned. This parkland has been developed using low-impact methods that you'll see all around us as you tour the park today. Substantial archaeological work preceded the development, and I will say that there were numerous artifacts that were found as the park was developed. In fact, we looked for the best spot to put the canoe and kayak launch, and we realized after we found the best spot that 4,000 years ago somebody else had realized that was also the best spot, so we had to move it in order to protect that sacred ground. And learning, as Melissa mentioned, won't be limited just to the past events. You'll notice the timeline in the park leaves room for more. And I'll also add that this has been a challenge because this is a first for us in Virginia State Parks in interpreting this history. We learned a lot along the way, and we still have more to learn, and we appreciate all of your help in getting there. As I mentioned, Machicomoco means a special meeting place. This will indeed be a special place for connecting with nature, the forest, the water, the plants, the animals that were all stewarded by the people that lived on this land for thousands of years before us. I'm confident that Machicomoco will serve as a model for authentic storytelling and interpretation at other parks throughout the Commonwealth. In closing, I'd like to thank the many partners that made this all happen. Our landscape architects, Nelson Bird Woltz, Professor Martin Gallivan at the College of William and Mary, the Conservation Fund, Henderson Incorporated, the general contractors that built all this, and the Fairfield Foundation for all their outstanding work. Also to Gloucester County and the many citizens here who provided valuable input along the way. I also want to recognize the Department of Historic Resources, Director Julie Langen's here with us today for their invaluable work as we went through all of this process. So how about a round of applause for all of our folks. And I really want to thank the Indian tribes who helped us lay out the vision for this park through many meetings. These tribes included the Mattaponi, the Pamunkey, the Chickahominy, the Eastern Chickahominy, the Rappahannock, the Upper Mattaponi, the Nansemond, the Monacan Indian Nation, the Cherokee, the Nottoway, and the Potawatomi. You gave us input on how your story should be told. We did our best to get it right, but we're here to continue to learn from you and improve on how we will tell that story in this and other parks. And I mentioned it was just 2 years ago that we did the groundbreaking on this park. For those of you that have watched us develop parks in the past, you will know that that is a phenomenal time frame for us to go from putting shovels in the ground to being able to be here today for the dedication. And one reason this was able to happen is because of our partnership with the Conservation Fund, who for the past 2 years has served as the owner of the property and has handled all the fun work of working with contractors and working with architects and working with archaeologists and all the fun stuff that had to be done to get us here today. So with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Heather Richards with the Conservation Fund. Heather?
Thanks, Clyde. This has been a remarkable couple of years working on this project. As Clyde said, I'm Heather Richards. I'm the Mid-Atlantic Regional Director for the Conservation Fund, and I visited this site for the first time in early September 2017. And I saw at once, the minute I set foot here, why Clyde and his team at DCR were interested in this property for a state park and asked me to come take a look. The beauty to be found here, surrounded on 3 sides by tidal creeks and the York River, really made this place special, and the possibilities seemed really endless for what we could do here. So that's why I'm honored on behalf of the Conservation Fund to have been able to play a part in the creation of this new recreational, educational, and cultural asset for Gloucester County and the Commonwealth. I'm especially pleased to work with our partners in Virginia's Indian tribes. Their thoughts and input on the project and the development of this site have made it possible to create a state park that I hope tells their story and will continue to tell their story for future years. As the only nonprofit chartered with the dual mission of creating solutions that make environmental and economic sense, this project is a prime example of how the Conservation Fund works and how we can achieve those results. By working with the Commonwealth and Dominion Energy, we were able to secure the property quickly in 2017. Less than 4 months after I saw it for the first time, we actually took title to the property. And it was also just before it went on the open market as a housing development for more than 50 houses. Our ability to come and purchase the property quickly gave DCR and Dominion the space and time necessary to pull in the tribes, to pull in Gloucester County, local residents, and the other state agencies that really have a stake here, like DHR, to design and then develop the property in near record time. And so many people had a hand in creating the park you see today. The fund has long had a role in the protection of natural resources in Virginia and the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Our founder, Pat Noonan, actually led the efforts to create the Captain John Smith Chesapeake National Historic Trail in 2006. Our work to secure and protect Machicomoco State Park is just the latest piece of our efforts to protect historic and important cultural sites in the Bay watershed, including Fones Cliff on the Rappahannock River and Werowocomoco just a few miles upstream from where we stand today. Again, it's really wonderful to be here today, and I hope that students, families, and visitors from all around can come out and experience and enjoy this important state park and learn some of the lessons that can be taught here. And now I would really love to pass the podium over to Matthew Strickler, Virginia's Secretary of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Heather, and thanks to the Conservation Fund for the critical role it's played in making the vision of this park a reality. As a graduate of the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, I've spent a lot of time on this stretch of the Pamunkey River, which is the native name of this body of water, now called the York, and it's hard to imagine a more beautiful setting for a state park. But this park isn't just about scenery and recreation. As others have noted, it's about history and culture, and importantly, about telling a part of Virginia history that for too long has only been referenced in passing. It's a park for all people, but most importantly, for Virginia's first people. Across the river and down a few miles is Yorktown, part of Virginia's historic triangle. The stories emphasize that the triangle sites English colonization, the beginnings of representative democracy in America, and the Revolutionary War are important but incomplete. I believe that with the addition of the stories Governor Northam is working with Virginia Indian and African American communities to tell at places like Fort Monroe, Chickahominy on the James, Richmond's Shockoe Bottom, and this site, as well as Werowocomoco just upriver, we are painting a fuller, more representative, more just, and far more interesting picture of Virginia history. I know we have a number of other speakers today, but I would like to quickly thank all the tribal leaders who have been involved in creating the vision for this park, as well as Director Langen, who was mentioned earlier, and her team at the Department of Historic Resources, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, especially Director Clyde Cristman and Deputy Director Tom Smith for their many months of hard work they've put in on this project, and Ms. Melissa Baker, Ann Zahn, and Tim Schrader, and the rest of the Virginia State Parks team that will have the privilege and responsibility of stewarding this site. So thank you all for being here with us today. It's now my honor to introduce my good friend and Secretary of the Commonwealth, Kelly Thomasson.
Thank you, Secretary Strickler, and so much thanks to all of you for being here today. Part of my job, probably one of the best parts of my job, is serving as the liaison to Virginia's Indian tribes. I value our government-to-government relationships and also our friendships. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today and to be joined by so many of our tribal leaders who were able to make it out to be on this beautiful site with us. I want to thank Frank Adams, Chief of the Upper Mattaponi, Chief Steve Adkins of the Chickahominy, Chief Earl Bass of the Nansemond, as well as Assistant Chief Keith Anderson, Chief Ann Richardson of the Rappahannock, Chief Walt Brown of the Cheronaca, and I don't think I've missed anybody else. We also have a number of other tribal members and leaders here today. The chiefs of the Pamunkey, the Chickahominy Eastern Division, Monacan, Nottoway, and the Patawomac were not able to be here today, but have been incredibly supportive and excellent partners in this in the creation of this park. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for your leadership and your guidance along the way. And so we want to thank all of the tribal members who helped contribute to this opening of this beautiful park. The creation of Machicomoco State Park not only preserves this beautiful land and this incredible viewshed that I will never get tired of, but it gives us a significant place to celebrate, preserve, and share tribal history and culture with all Virginians. Learning this history and culture is so important because learning this history of Virginia's Native people is so important and another step towards historic justice. I'm grateful for all of you who are here today. I do also want to give a shout out to Delegate Keith Hodges, who's joined us. He's been an incredible friend to the Indian community across Virginia, as well as to my former colleague, Secretary Molly Ward, who's the Secretary of Natural Resources and really an instrumental part in the early stages of this vision. With that, I am going to, with so much gratitude in my heart for all of you, turn the podium over to my dear friend, Chief Adkins of the Chickahominy tribe. He's going to offer some remarks today. Chief Adkins has been a friend in so many ways. He's a public servant in all senses of the word, not just to his tribe, but to all of the Commonwealth, serving on a number of boards and resources and offering guidance when I call him frequently. So I'm going to turn the podium over to Chief Adkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Thomasson. Good morning, Governor Northam, tribal leaders, cabinet secretaries and agency directors, and other guests. Governor Northam, these days we hear the often misapplied term cancel culture. Cancel culture. By contrast, your tenure as Chief Executive Officer of the Commonwealth should be heralded as one of cultures illuminated, of uncanceled cultures. The executive branch has chosen to create a climate where all cultures within the Commonwealth can emerge from the shadows into the bright sunshine, much as we see today. So Governor Northam has opened the doors so that those cultures can be shared, understood, and taught even in our public school systems. Today marks a signal event in the lives of the history of both indigenous peoples and their friends and neighbors who comprise the total citizenry of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Never in its existence has the Commonwealth designated a site so replete with rich Native history as Machicomoco, a site to be a venue for providing the public with experiential interpretations of the many historical and cultural aspects of early indigenous life in this land we call Chickahominy. To be sure, historical interpretation will offer a glimpse of the impact of the arrival of other cultures on this property. And as the story unfolds, some of those stories of those individuals must be included. But as those interpretations converge and unfold, the native story will not be sidelined. And often that's been the case. Our native history, our culture has been sidelined, and the dominant culture story has just been repeated and repeated. I shouldn't, but ad nauseum. So we know all the history of the dominant culture, but this offers just a unique, unprecedented opportunity for the Commonwealth to tell those stories that have been held hostage so long. As you look out at the Pamunkey River, and thank you, Secretary Strickler, for bringing that up, now referred to as the York River, you will imagine images of native people plying and fishing those waters. As you trod these very grounds, you will conjure up images of native peoples hunting and cultivating this land. And you will visualize images of the everyday life of native peoples. But it will not stop there. The lifestyles and activities of non-natives should be interpreted as well as the story continues to unfold from the original time frame that we know natives inhabited this land, and take it to be a living history where we recognize even other cultures. Those interpretations will offer a glimpse. They will offer a glimpse and evoke mental pictures of how those people lived on this beautiful land. Governor Northam, I applaud the efforts you and your staff have expended in making today a reality. It seemed like a far-flung dream to me early on when I heard these very optimistic projections of when this park would open. But you folks have kept your shoulder to the wheel, and all those folks mentioned by Clyde, Cristman, and others, you see the fruits of their labor today. And I can't be more proud as an indigenous person, a native of the Commonwealth of Virginia, to share with you this moment. So on behalf of the 11 Indian tribes of Virginia, I thank you for your steadfast commitment, Governor Northam, to providing opportunities for Virginia's indigenous peoples to tell their story, complete and unabridged, and for allowing us to take a giant step in our quest to ransom our history. And folks who have heard me speak know that I often make this statement that our history has been held ransom. Our history has been held hostage, I should say. So a history that's been held hostage for so many years, Governor Northam, you have helped to ransom. And this offers us a foothold. It offers us a launching point to ensure that our story continues to be told, and the doors to our educational system and those textbooks that have long been authored by folks without a sense of the native presence in these environs, they will be forced to include our story so that folks who matriculate through the educational system within the Commonwealth from K to a doctoral degree will understand the history of Virginia's indigenous peoples. So at this time, I would like to introduce the 73rd Governor of Virginia. He's been a friend for many years. I got to know him serving on the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. We sat side by side, and Governor, you probably regretted having to sit beside me, but I would grab his ear and talk about native peoples. And I said, when you make that next step, he said, well, I'm not sure I'm going to run. I said, well, you are, I'm sure. I said, make sure you remember and help us tell our story. But he's always been there. He's a gentleman, he's compassionate, and I'm going to go back and say it again. He's always been there. He's never shied away. If you call his number, you're going to get an answer. Without question, if he's called to do a job, he's going to do the job. I look at what I thought was the impossibility of us getting to where we are today. And he was quick to say, don't give me the credit, Chief. It goes to Clyde, and it goes to Julie, and it goes to the Secretary of Natural Resources. It goes to the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Those people under my purview did the work, so don't give me the credit. Governor Northam, I'm going to take license and give you credit. So, Governor Northam, thank you for all you do, and please come and share with us your comments for today.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, and those are tough words to follow, but thank you, Chief Adkins, number one, for your friendship and for your advocacy for Native Americans and just working with our staff over the years to bring to fruition projects like this. And I know we have a lot of other chiefs in the audience today. It's been wonderful working with you, other tribal leaders, and I just thank you so much for all of your work over the years. This is my second visit to Machicomoco, and all I can say is, wow, this is an amazing place and something that we should all just be so proud of. I know a lot of folks have been recognized, but I would like to just again recognize our Secretary of the Commonwealth, who needs a lot of credit for all the great work that she's done. Secretary Thomasson, thank you for being here, and thanks for your leadership and all of your work with our tribes throughout Virginia. Secretary Max Strickler, our Secretary of Natural Resources, and a lot of his staff are with us today. I see you out there. I thank you for all that you've done. Clyde Cristman, what can I say? Clyde and I go back a few years, and he took on this role when I started my administration. And one of the things about Clyde is when you ask him to do something, he gets it done, and this is just a great example of that. And Director Baker, thank you so much for all of our parks and your leadership through Virginia. Josh Sachs, I see you. I know you've put a lot of work into this project. Miriam, appreciate you and just everybody that is here. I'd also like to again recognize our delegate, Keith Hodges. Keith, thank you for being here today. It's been I think this is probably an understatement, but it's been a busy year in Richmond, whether you're there in person or virtually. But you know, one of the things that when we talk about our beautiful state parks like Machicomoco, it takes resources, and that means that the legislature has to participate and support these. And Keith, I thank you for all of your dedication and to your constituents and to your district, and thank you for being here today. And welcome to all of our partners, including the Conservation Fund. Thank you so much for your work. Dominion Energy. We wouldn't be here today without them and without their support. And most importantly, as I said earlier, welcome to all the tribal leaders and members, and to those watching on live stream. And you know, there is light at the end of this tunnel, and I hope that the next time we meet it will certainly be in person. As has been said, this is truly a beautiful site along the Pamunkey River. Historic Jamestown is just down the road, and we're here for an exciting occasion, the opening of Virginia's 40th, and I'm going to repeat that. And we have just so many beautiful parks, but this is our 40th state park, Machicomoco. So today is truly a milestone. Virginia opened its park system back in 1936, a 6-park system. For 85 years, Virginia state parks have been the backdrop for weekend recreation, family vacations, and an array of outdoor experiences. Our park system has expanded and thrived thanks to enthusiastic support of Virginians all across the state. State parks and other public lands benefit public health, preserve historic sites and battlefields, and protect natural ecosystems. And that's why we continue to invest in them. Adding a 40th park to the system is a significant occasion. But it's especially important today that Virginia's 40th state park is also, as has been mentioned, our first state park dedicated to honoring and telling the story of Virginia's first people. All of this land that is now the state of Virginia was once Native American territory. We must never forget that. When English settlers established Jamestown in 1607, it is estimated that there were 50,000 indigenous people living on this land. In the late 1500s and early 1600s, the land was a seasonal home or meeting place for members of the Powhatan Confederacy. At its height, the Confederacy included at least 30 tribes, occupying most of Tidewater, Virginia, and Virginia's eastern shore. Now, just a little bit of history, and I don't want to trespass on too much of your time, but as some of you may know, I hail from the eastern shore of Virginia. My hometown is called Onancock. A lot of towns on the eastern shore, to include Machicomoco, Chincoteague, Chesapeake, and Nassawadox, where I was born, the land between two waters, are named for our Indians. Telling the stories of places like this and their importance to Virginia's first people is key to our administration's commitment to historic justice. Historic justice is the idea that telling a more comprehensive and inclusive story of the past and teaching history that reflects the stories and experiences of all people is an important step in bringing us together. Historic justice acknowledges that we have done an injustice by not honoring or fully telling a people's story, and that is certainly true with regard to Virginia Indians. That is why it is so significant that with its 40th state park, the Commonwealth will honor the Powhatan Confederacy, its members, and all Virginia Indians. Machicomoco State Park will provide a meeting place for tribal gatherings and functions. And while visitors can enjoy the state park experience, this park also provides an important opportunity to teach the history of Virginia Indians to a large audience. The interpretive area, developed in close partnership with the Virginia tribes, will highlight the history of the Virginia Indians in a timeline walk and an educational trail. An open-air educational structure featuring panels about life, land, community, and travel will be the site of future interpretive programs. And of course, we have kayak launches, hiking trails, camping sites, and many other outdoor activities to enjoy. And yes, Secretary Strickler, a little marina for you to bring in your boat and tie up and visit. That might have been planned, by the way. As I toured this park earlier this year, I was struck by the power of state parks to not only provide recreation and relaxation, but historic preservation and education as well. People have recognized this amazing piece of land for centuries. Thanks to the Fairfield Foundation, we will continue to explore the archaeology of this site to learn more about its various inhabitants, including the Catlett family, whose house remains on the grounds. I am also excited that this history will be protected. And thanks to all of today's participants, the public can now enjoy this site. So as we open our 40th state park today, we are reminded that parks connect us and bring us together. I'm honored to dedicate Machicomoco State Park today for all Virginians, and particularly for Virginia Indians. And to all of you out there watching, and to those that are here today, please come visit this often. It's just a beautiful site, and it's just a tremendous asset to be added to Virginia's other 39 state parks. So thank you all very much for your work.
Nuto, and they will live in. We ask your blessings to open this park for the benefit of all the residents. We start in the east, from whence comes our people. The east represented by the rising sun and the beautiful yellow color that comes from that color. We move clockwise in a circle, move towards the south, from which comes the warm winds. The warm winds that create the growth for our plants, represented by the color of black. Mashiwanuto, Keskadakayak, we thank you. Finally, we come to the west, represented by the setting sun, the bright red color of the setting sun, which also represents the warm winds that come and help us to grow our plants. Mashiwanuto, Chickahominy, Kikina, we thank you, Creator, and for all you do for us. We continue around to the north, represented by the cold winds that cleanse the air, that purify the air for the coming spring, that we may grow our crops, grow our food. We think of the color white when we think of the north. Mashiwanuto, Keskadakayak, Hakamutaman, we thank you, Creator, for this day. Finally, we come back to the east, closing the circle. The east represents the gate land to this continent in our history, the land called Chickahominy, the land of the Algonquin people as well as other speakers, other language groups. We've completed the circle, the perfect circle of harmony and life and of connecting the future with the past. And so we stand here, Mashiwanuto, Kakidaman, Kina, Kedash. Thank you, Creator. Thank you for your blessings. Bless this site and all that will come to it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Okay.
Audio. Okay. All right, on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1.
All right, thank you all for joining us. The governor's going to do a quick interview here, so if I can ask all of our guests, if you'll work your way back to the front gate and park in the parking area behind the contact station,